Do you want to play an indestructible frontline tank? Do you want to put the fear of God in your enemies and retake the Holy Land? Do you want to hit people with your big, thick sword? Then go watch last episode, because today we're talking about the Crusader.
In the name of God, in the name of God, in the name of God, we go to hell! In the name of God, in the name of God, in the name of God, we go to hell!
Those of you who answered yes to smacking people with your big holy sword, you're in luck. Smite is a basic melee attack, but don't think basic means weak. Thanks to the Crusader's high base damage, enemies on the receiving end of Smite will be repenting in no time. The skill also does 15% bonus damage to heretics! Definitely worth training if you plan to bring the Crusader as a frontline damage dealer like Reynauld. Although maybe not if you want to play a support Crusader. Zealous Accusation needs no introduction. The Crusader shows your enemies an excerpt from Vestal's salacious diary, causing them to take massive cringe damage. Unfortunately, her handwriting is very small, so only the frontmost enemies can read it. This ability is a huge meme, and it's always fun to smite enemies using only a piece of paper, but AoEs in this game are categorically weak, so it is outshone by the Crusader's other abilities. The only time I recommend using it is in boss fights where the AoE is relevant, such as the Crew or the Flesh. Speaking of better abilities, Stunning Blow is stunningly good. But really, jokes aside, stuns are really good in this game. It's also worth noting that Stunning Blow comes with marginally more accuracy than Smite, so if an enemy is down to 1 or 2 HP, it's worth using this for a slightly higher chance to hit. Anytime you plan to have your Crusader in rank 1 or 2, you should bring Stunning Blow. Bulwark of Faith is, in all honesty, not a very good skill. I can only recommend it in skew compositions like, because taken by itself it's not a very strong defensive ability. 20 to 30 prot and no other bonuses is not enough to justify an action. Although sometimes you can pop it just for the torchlight. The positioning requirement is also a big drawback, since it means that it's practically worthless on a Holy Lands Crusader. You'll be leaving this skill in the hamlet a lot of the time. Now let's talk about Battle Heal. Battle Heal is the worst targeted heal in the entire game. The only time you might want to use Battle Heal is when a hero is on death's door. Despite how weak it is, I still use it occasionally, because it is the only heal the Crusader has. The Crusader's 6th ability is Inspiring Cry. As the only targeted ability in the game that can heal both stress and health, it is invaluable, and you should never leave the hamlet without it. It can serve both as a death's door save when the Crusader acts before your healer, and general stress management if the Crusader doesn't need to be attacking anything during his turn. It is very good.
Don't fuck with me! I have the power of God and anime on my side!
Wait,
Lastly, Holy Lance is the skill that most new players overlook, but you're gonna have a lot of trouble getting into Jerusalem without hitting ranks 3 and 4. At first you may just think it's a skill to save you if you get shuffled, but it's actually the Crusader's best attack, and it synergizes well with other dance characters like Highwaymen and Grave Robber. Remember that killing the back ranks is the #1 priority in most fights, so plan to use Holy Lance in the first round of combat. Despite some very strong combat abilities, the Crusader is not the best when it comes time to set up camp. I guess once the crusade is over and he's settled down, there just really isn't anything to be excited about anymore. What a letdown. But no character can be good at everything, so we love him anyways. First off, Unshakable Leader is a slightly better pep talk, with the main drawback being that it is self-target only. The issue is that pep talk is not a very good skill to begin with. The best way to manage stress is to kill the source, not reduce the amount taken by 15 or even 25%. Stand Tall is a really crappy Encourage. You spend one more respite point than Encourage to gain the added bonus of removing the target's mortality debuffs. This would be super useful if mortality debuffs had a significant impact on character performance, but they don't. Just use Encourage instead. Zealous Speech is 4 Encourages and 3 pep talks, all glued together and dropped unceremoniously on your party for just 5 respite points, like some kind of stress-reducing Frankenstein. That's 14 respite points worth of stress management for almost 1/3 the investment. There's a good chance not all the heroes affected need the help. That said, it is very efficient if your party is stressed out. Zealous Vigil can prevent nighttime ambush. This alone makes it worth taking. The stress heal is just a cherry on top. This ability also wants you to use it more often when the Crusader is afflicted, but remember that you should never ever tell an afflicted hero to use a camping skill. It's asking him to throw away your respite points and stress out the entire party. All you should care about is the ambush prevention. There are 2 main trinket builds for the Crusader. Reynold, the Crusader you start the game with, is a frontline Crusader. This build runs the default suite of damage and accuracy trinkets, and mostly plays like a leper with a stun, soaking up damage and hitting the front ranks. I think that the Crusader has a lot more potential than being a leper with a stun, but if you have a party that doesn't support shuffling, you can play him this way. Just be aware that if you do, you will be outing yourself as subhuman trash, like Inkling mains, and people who like battle heal. The trinket build I prefer, and the only one worth using, is Support Crusader. This build wants a trinket to buff stress healing, and a trinket to buff stun chance. In combat, Support Crusaders hit the back ranks in the first round, and focus on stunning and stress healing afterward. I think the utility provided by this build is invaluable, but it does suffer from a lack of an accuracy trinket when stunning and lancing. So some early game trinkets I would equip to the Crusader include Swordsman's Crest, Paralyzer's Crest, Warrior's Cap, Dazzling Charm, Reckless Charm, Book of Relaxation, Health Stone, and Bloodthirst Ring. Late game trinkets I would equip to the Crusader include Signed Conscription, Ancestor's Scroll, Non-Euclidean Hilt, the Sun and Moon Rings, the Focus Ring, the Tough Ring, and the Legendary Bracer. Of Darkest Dungeon's frontline bruisers, the Crusader is the most flexible option. While he is certainly viable as a rank 1 meat shield that dishes out stuns and short-range damage, he can just as easily be found bringing the pain to ranks 3 and 4, or maintaining the health and stress levels of his party members. And the best part is that with some careful team composition, he can do all these things in the same expedition. You can even take 4 Crusaders with some success. His main drawbacks are accuracy and speed. His base accuracy is average, but as I said before, he sometimes forgoes an accuracy trinket another class would be taking. This is particularly problematic in the Courtyard, which has a lot of high dodge enemies. Low speed leads to poor action economy, and it's especially unfortunate to see low speed on a stunner. All that said, while few of the Crusader's individual abilities will floor you, I would identify him as the most flexible character in the game. He's the only hero that can perform equally well in all 4 ranks, and the only important mechanics that aren't in his kit are a guard or an answer to protection. It can be enjoyable to build a very focused, synergistic 4-man team and just take those exact characters into every dungeon, but that quickly falls apart when the enemy gets a lucky string of crits, or your Houndmaster becomes one with fucking nothingness for 3 weeks. In times like these, the Crusader will fit almost any position. Just too bad he can't fill the emptiness I feel inside my heart.